Collier County commissioners say the 10 Commandments will be displayed across government properties, and it's sparking a heated debate.
One Southwest Florida county considers changing how much you pay in property tax.
Lehigh Acres now has high-speed internet.
At just 20 years old, a chef here in Punta Gorda cooked his way into one of the most prestigious culinary schools in the country.
Welcome back into Fox 4 News. I'm Ryan Kruger. Officials in DeSoto County held their final budget workshop on Tuesday. The main topic, whether or not to decrease millage rates. Our Hunter Walshman was at the meeting to get the latest.
My neighbors here in DeSoto County got this in the mail. It's a notice that fire and EMS rates could go up on their property tax bill. I'm Arcadia community correspondent Hunter Walshman, and I sat in as commissioners discussed the rates to find out how much you could pay.
We try to do the best we can with what we have.
Post-COVID, more calls for DeSoto County Fire and Rescue. With 17 staff covering 640 square miles, Chief Chad Jorgensen says it can get taxing.
And that really hasn't gone away.
Now, to help pay for that, so could your tax bill. DeSoto County commissioners indicating support to increase the public safety fee by 15%.
They expect the sheriff to show up, and they expect the fire truck to show up or EMS to show up.
Commissioner Elton Langford says it's about striking a balance. At the high end, property tax could go up by about $65.
Some folks have to pay just a hair more. Some folks will pay just a hair less.
Because commissioners are also considering lowering the millage rate, some property tax bills could actually go down. Right now, the county's millage rate is among the highest in Florida, but commissioners say that's because there's less commercial and industrial property to work with.
We just don't have the tax base that some of the bigger counties got.
Commissioners acknowledging that times are tough and things are getting more expensive for everyone.
They have helped us move leaps and bounds from when I first started here.
State grants help the department pay for new equipment as the county tries to do more with less.
Not everybody's going to be happy, but we do our best. And we try to do the right thing.
In Arcadia, Hunter Walterman, Fox 4.
The 10 Commandments will soon be displayed on government properties across Collier County after commissioners approved a controversial measure to install the religious text alongside other historical documents. I'm your Naples community correspondent, Mahmoud Bennett, and I was inside the commissioners' meeting on Tuesday as dozens of people packed the room to speak out. The decision drew strong pushback at Tuesday's commissioners' meeting. 39 speakers showed up, most opposing the plan to display the 10 Commandments as part of a, quote, larger exhibit depicting the foundations of American law.
Everything about it seems inappropriate and contrary to the principles on which our nation was founded, to be a free society where religion and government are separate.
Reverend Dr. Sharon Harris Ewing, who is the president of the Interfaith Alliance of Southwest Florida, believes the move directly violates the First Amendment.
Christians are not to be preferred, and the Christian perspective is not to be ascendant. And I say that with humility and with deep commitment, as I said, as a Christian minister.
Others, however, argued the display would help unite the country around what they call shared values.
If you look at the nation and what's happening in our nation, immorality is rampant.
Jerry Rutherford helped bring the idea up for a vote and says he is not opposed to other religious groups calling for their own displays. He also offered to donate 10 Commandments plaques to the county.
Founders established all our original laws on the 10 Commandments. It's been the civil law for over 2,000 years in the West. And so it's not just a religious statement, it's a civil statement.
Meanwhile, despite many showing up, quoting the values of Scripture, Commissioner Hall, who brought the motion up, insisted,
this proposal has nothing to do with religion. Zero, zilcho, nada.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled 10 Commandment displays are allowed when displayed as historical or educational, not religious. Recently, state and federal judges have struck down similar displays in schools in Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Staff will decide in the coming weeks where the new displays will go up. Reporting in Collier County, Mahmoud Bennett, Fox 4 News.
Thanks for joining us here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. We want to start the latest on the tropics. First things first, the only system that we're currently monitoring that's active across the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf is Tropical Storm Fernand. The great news about this system is a storm for the fish, not going to be affecting any sort of landmass whatsoever during its lifetime. It is expected to fizzle out right here over the North Atlantic as we head into Thursday afternoon, well away from the Canadian Maritimes. Aside from that, no development is forecast through the next 7 days. That's what these two blue dots signify across the Atlantic, Caribbean, as well as the Gulf. Now, we have to keep in mind we are approaching the peak of hurricane season, so that momentum is definitely getting started. And a lot of times this year, based upon climatology, we tend to see waves rolling off the coast of Africa. Sure enough, our Climate Prediction Center outlook for formation of probability between September 3rd and the 9th. So basically, the first week of September, we're going to be closely focused here between the Cabo Verde Islands and the Lesser Antilles right here across the Atlantic. That's where we'll see the highest probability for potential development. Likewise, taking it a week further in time. So heading into mid-September, northwestern Caribbean as well as parts of the southwestern Gulf. That's where we could also see that probability of development, which with a much higher potential right here again across the Atlantic because of those waves rolling off of the coast of Africa. Of course, we'll continue to watch that for you closely. Your 7-day forecast is up next.
Lee County Utilities issued a precautionary boil water notice for about 450 homes and 5 businesses in Estero due to a water main break. Water service was restored, but residents in the affected area must boil all drinking water or use bottled water for the next 2 days. The impacted streets include Wildcat Run Drive, Golden Panther Drive, Cheetah Lane, and a dozen other streets in the neighborhood. The boil water notice will remain in effect until water testing is complete. Officials say that typically takes 48 to 72 hours, with the notice expected to be lifted Friday.
After months of debate, Collier County commissioners have decided to keep the Everglades City Air Park open. Back in March, the county launched a study on the possibility of shutting the air park down, citing years of financial losses up to more than $275,000 a year. The study also found air traffic has declined, dropping to just over 3,000 last year. But on Tuesday, county leaders voted to accept the study and keep the air park open for now, while staff plan next steps to repair infrastructure and review future operations. To help cut losses, staff recommended boosting fuel sales, working with local tourism, and adding more hangars if land becomes available.
Last year, I was here at the Glades RV Resort and Golf Course when golfers had to hit the deck as bullets whizzed overhead from a nearby gun range. I'm Fox 4's Hendry County community correspondent Austin Shagorodsky. Since I work in these rural communities every day, I heard from my sources that the issue got fixed, and I was able to connect with the gun range owner to see how he handled it.
This room has several collections.
Robert Bucher is an avid gun collector. You can see this room is completely filled with them.
And the earliest one is from the Revolutionary War here. It's a flintlock.
He's been curating this museum of weaponry and memorabilia for 25 years and says one of his favorite pastimes,
I've got a spotting scope and bench rests,
is enjoying them on his private range. But last year, some of those bullets were missing this berm and whizzing by golfers like Janice Andres and her friends next door.
Several of the girls were in tears on it. I mean, you know, that's pretty traumatic.
Some of those bullets pierced through Glenn Mulliner's RV, one at head level, right by his water controls.
If I was here hooking this up at the time, I probably wouldn't be here right now.
They went to the Glades County Sheriff's Office, then to county commissioners. The board said the range owner had Second Amendment rights, but promised to look into having him redirect the shooting. And Bucher says he heard their calls.
So we had a 40-foot berm right down here, but I extended it a quarter mile down so it covers the entire end of the property.
Bucher says the berm is taller than any police range he modeled it after, and now he only shoots from inside this room to control bullet direction. He said he also cut a check to Mulliner to cover the RV damage.
That's what you should try to do in life. As much as it's possible for you, try to live at peace with your neighbors.
Reporting in Moorhaven, I'm Austin Shagorodsky, Fox 4 News.
Collier County has secured federal funding for a new veterans-assisted living home. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs will partially fund the $72 million project through the State Home Construction Grant Program. The two-story facility will have 120 beds and provide adult care nursing. The land for the center was once the Golden Gate Golf Course, which the county purchased in 2019. Final funding will be confirmed after additional paperwork and legislative approval this September.
The Punta Gorda City Council could approve a Vietnam-era helicopter to be unveiled and shown at Veterans Park. The helicopter is a UH-1 Huey, used during the war. This isn't something new. In 2015, the committee voted to remove it due to lack of money. And then in April of 2022, Council did not want to bring it back and tabled the discussion indefinitely. Now our presentation will show the potential placement across from the Armed Forces Flag Corps. But they need the helicopter money and approval, which could come on Wednesday.
I'm your Fort Myers Beach community correspondent, Anvar Bruziev, and since Hurricane Ian, FMB Strong's food pantry has been a lifeline for my neighbors. Now it's set to close September 10th, but the organization says their mission to support this island isn't going anywhere.
Lehigh Acres reached another milestone Tuesday morning, getting high-speed internet. I'm Lehigh Acres community correspondent Victoria Quevedo, and I'll tell you what one organization says this means to them.
8 years of memory gone.
Before the critically acclaimed series Doc returns this fall.
Clear.
You can watch season 1 anytime.
I will be a doctor again.
Doc returns Tuesday, September 23rd on Fox.
With a big day ahead, I always make time to swing by McDonald's. Their warm, fluffy sausage McMuffin with egg jumpstarts my day in a way that nothing else can. And now it's only $3. Tasty and affordable, McDonald's checks off all the boxes. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
El Dorado Furniture's Labor Day mattress sale is here. Get the rest you deserve with hundreds off on the brands you love and low monthly payments. Shop online and at all El Dorado Furniture showrooms.
During the Make This the Summer sales event at Cape Coral Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, get a brand new 2025 1500 Bighorn Crew Cab 4x4 for only $42,995. That's a nearly $16,000 savings. Plus get 3.9% interest for 72 months. CapeCoralCDJR.com.
Okay, Haverty's.
I can't do another movie night on that saggy sofa.
Did we just... a cuddler?
It's got no sag springs and a regret-free guarantee.
Get better savings on better styles at Haverty's Labor Day sale. Haverty's, we furnish happiness.
Keep summer in gear at the Nissan End of Summer Sales Event. With a Rogue that offers more standard power than CR-V in Tucson. Frontier with a standard V6 unlike Tacoma, and an IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus like Pathfinder or Murano. It's no wonder why J.D. Power named Nissan #1 in new vehicle quality. Hurry in to the Nissan End of Summer Sales Event. Now get 0% APR for 60 months on select popular models, or get a low $299 per month lease on Rogue.
Sometimes mornings feel the same every day, but they don't have to. And with the McDonald's app deals on the horizon, you can start your morning on McDonald's time. Get a breakfast combo meal full of your faves for just $5.49, only in the app. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
On Fort Myers Beach, I'm Anvar Bruziev. Thank you for watching Fox 4.
A crash in Cape Coral involves everything from damage to a house to a pickup truck with a flat tire and driving on the rim. Now, all of this happened Monday night near Southwest 49th Street and Chiquita Boulevard. Cape PD says they were called about a reckless driver. Officers say they were able to track down the truck when a crash alert went off. They found it on Southwest 48th Terrace. Now, police say the driver hit a garage, then 2 vehicles, and also took out 2 mailboxes. After the arrest, Cape Coral police say the driver admitted he was the one who did the damage, and they hit him with multiple counts of DUI, property damage, as well as hit and run.
Imagine trying to run a business or do your work without fast internet. Parts of Lehigh Acres have been facing this issue for years. I'm Lehigh Acres community correspondent Victoria Quevedo, and now, after years of waiting, more areas of my community now have high-speed internet.
I can't express to you enough what an incredible difference it has made, and it will continue to make.
My community has struggled for years with poor internet connection. That changed on Tuesday as Comcast announced the launch of high-speed internet for 11,000 homes and businesses in Lehigh. Charlotte Ray Nicely is the executive director of Lehigh Community Services. She says the impact goes far beyond just faster downloads.
This has made an incredible difference, of course, for us as a business, but I think even more importantly for the school children. And I'm a retired teacher, so that hits close to my heart.
Mark Giosa lives in Lehigh and says the timing is perfect because of the area's rapid growth.
You just drive up and down the streets here locally and see the development. I think it's important for the people moving in. They'll want to have dependable, reliable cable and internet service.
The high-speed internet expansion is made possible through partnerships between Comcast, the state, and Lee County.
It's just been a godsend for our community.
For many families in Lehigh Acres, having reliable internet access will be a game changer. In Lehigh Acres, Victoria Quevedo, Fox 4.
Thanks for joining us here in the Fox 4 Weather Center. Well, the power of clouds and rain were absolutely felt today across our region. Our northernmost communities were dealing with clouds and rain. Meanwhile, our southernmost counties, not so much. Take a look at this. Punta Gorda only hit a high of 81 degrees this afternoon. Meanwhile, Naples off toward the south, 92. So we had a span of 11 degrees for those afternoon high temperatures just because we saw more sunshine down in Naples, not nearly as much activity, not nearly as much cloud cover or rain showers for that matter. Now for Fort Myers, we're kind of sandwiched in the middle. High temperatures this afternoon reached 88 degrees. Currently, we are still a bit cooler. Farther up toward the north, 78 right now in Arcadia, 80 degrees for Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, and still a bit muggier down for Naples and Marco Island, still sitting in those middle 80s. Let's take you live now. Let's head to Port Charlotte. Check on things here where things are nice and quiet. Still a decent amount of cloud cover, and that's where we're going to be seeing it, mainly in our northernmost communities, closer to where the boundary actually is. So right now we have this cold front that's hanging out close to I-4, and because of its positioning here across central Florida, that's going to keep a lot of that moisture, meaning the cloud cover, the rain showers, closer to it. So that's why we saw that transition farther off toward the north with the wet weather. And even today, we did see generally along and north of the Caloosahatchee, most of those rain showers that did begin to come into play. Aside from that, clearer skies farther off toward the south. That's why we really saw things heat up. Now, currently, we do have some isolated rain showers here across DeSoto County. Light rain persists right along State Route 72 as well as 70 heading into Arcadia, so heads up there. Good news, though, not tracking any lightning with those particular rain showers. They will gradually be winding down after midnight. So as we kick off tomorrow morning, mostly cloudy skies are forecast. We'll start things off around 77 degrees by 10 a.m. up to 83 degrees, and by 12 noon, mostly cloudy, 87 degrees. Can't rule out a passing rain shower, but it's really heading into the afternoon. We'll see a better opportunity. That said, overall tomorrow, I'm not expecting as much activity. So slightly drier conditions are forecast. I'm pulling back those rain chances to around 30% based upon the latest probabilities. I just don't think we're going to see quite as much activity. Then as we head into your Thursday and Friday, we'll kind of head back into what is more of a typical trend. Late August, that will feature scattered storms after 2 p.m. So both Thursday and Friday, that's what we can expect. And then heading into the weekend, right now, there's not great agreement with our models that we look at beyond 5 days. So that's what I'm really waiting to see some agreement on, because there is the potential for another shortwave of energy to come in, bring us another soggy weekend. So as of now, I am expecting at least scattered showers and thunderstorms. These rain chances over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday into Monday, could be going up based upon the latest data. So just waiting for things to come into better agreement. But for now, scattered storms, that's what we are anticipating anticipating. Of course, we'll keep you updated with what we receive. But for your Wednesday, for tomorrow, 30% rain chances expected starting in the morning, heading into the afternoon. Best chance for those morning rain showers focused along the coastline. Then as we head into the afternoon hours, it's generally, again, it's going to be rather hit and miss. That means your temperature is going to be a bit hotter, climbing into the lower 90s across the map. Not expecting many highs to stay in the 80s like today. And we'll stay in those lower 90s as we wrap up the work week, heading into the weekend a little cooler with more clouds and rain.
President Trump takes his tariff threats to cyberspace as the trade war heats up. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. I've got the details coming up.
I'm Northport Community Correspondent Hunter Walterman. The QR code on your screen will take you to my most recent stories. I work in Northport every single day, and no other reporter can say that. That means I have a closer relationship with the stakeholders and the people who make my community great. Northport is our community, and this is our news.
Businesses invite you into their store to spend money so they can make a profit. This means that under the law, they have a duty to maintain a safe premises.
Whether it's a leak on the floor, bad lighting, an item falling off a shelf, or if you're attacked on the premises, it doesn't matter.
Stores have a legal duty to keep you safe on their property.
Our responsibility at Farah & Farah is to protect you when they don't.
Listening, getting to know you, understanding your concerns, because we're right there with you.
And I was the first reporter on scene here after that night.
It's a story we've been covering since the beginning. The power of community is really something.
That's how Fox 4 is in your community.
With Fargo, your virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, you can quickly know what you spend on things like food.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries this month?
Hey, Dad, can the guy stay for dinner?
No.
Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Sometimes it's the smallest details that make the biggest difference and shape everything you feel. It's the final days of the Lincoln Summer Invitation event. Now, lease the 2025 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring All-Wheel Drive for $529 per month for 36 months.
At Citi, we're ready for all that fall brings. From extra guests around the table, to cozy spots for a party of two, a place for every trick and treat, and room for your biggest wins. Now through Monday at Citi's Labor Day event. Save big with up to 40% off doorbusters, plus 7% off store-wide, or 36 months no interest. Citi Furniture, designed for love.
Hi everybody, I'm Sal. And I'm JP. Come on down to Judy's Antiques and Estate Jewelry. Before you throw cash in the trash, let us check it out first.
And don't forget guys, one man's trash is another man's treasure, so come on down to Judy's Jewelry where we're always paying top dollar on our buy, selling, and trading.
With Fargo, your virtual assistant from Wells Fargo, you can quickly know what you spend on things like food.
Fargo, what did I spend on groceries this month?
Hey, Dad, can the guy stay for dinner?
No.
Learn more at wellsfargo.com/getfargo.
Watching Fox 4 News, part of the Scripps News Group.
President Donald Trump threatened to impose additional tariffs on countries that do not remove digital taxes, arguing that they harm technology from the U.S. Fox News Chief Washington Correspondent Mike Emanuel has more from Washington.
We're taking a lot of money in from China because of the tariffs.
President Trump is opening up a new front in the trade war. On Monday night, he threatened new tariffs on countries that charge so-called digital service taxes. Those are fees on American companies providing digital services like internet to users overseas. The president writing in part, quote, America and American technology companies are neither the piggy bank nor the doormat of the world any longer. Show respect to America.
In terms of playing the cards, we have much bigger and better cards than they do.
President Trump says the digital service taxes discriminate against tech giants like Amazon and Google. And he's also threatening to add export restrictions on American chips and semiconductors. It comes just a day after the White House floated the idea of new tariffs on imported furniture. Administration officials say it's the best way to create new domestic manufacturing jobs.
They're going to give us money to build our infrastructure out in America. Those are the deals that Donald Trump made using his tariffs.
Meanwhile, more business leaders are reaching out to the White House for clarity on which tariffs will be coming next and when they'll end.
We're very optimistic that we'll work with the administration. Right now, it's a $2 billion headwind, and we want to get that down.
President Trump didn't announce a deadline for dropping digital service taxes on American companies, simply writing that it needs to end now. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Heading into Labor Day weekend, prices for flights, hotels, and car rentals are all down from last year. Gas prices in our state are averaging $3.60 on Tuesday, and that's a 14-cent jump in just one day. However, the prices is just 2 cents per gallon higher than last week, but still down 21 cents from last year.
The Trump administration threatens to withhold millions of dollars in federal funding if states fail to enforce English language requirements for truck drivers. I'm Nate Foy. I have the details coming up.
Hi, Southwest Florida. I'm Kyle Lee with Lee Auto Group. If you're in need for a quality, low-mileage vehicle, we have more than anyone. Over 400 vehicles in inventory. Come visit us today or visit lee-cars.com. Don't forget the dash.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. All right, Kara, what's it like being the fastest woman in the world?
Me? I'm not.
But you work at Eyeglass World. You make people's glasses the same day. You're so fast.
Are you messing with me?
Do you get a lot of speeding tickets?
Get 2 pairs of glasses for $99. Or get 2 pairs of progressives for $199 the same day at Eyeglass World, the world's best way to buy glasses.
People don't really realize how much of an impact the feet have on the rest of the body. A lot of times people with knee pain, there's really nothing going on with their knee. The issue is actually stemming from the foot. So now we're predisposed to hip pain, low back pain. What I really like about the Good Feet system is that when the foot's placed in the ideal position, everything else up the kinetic chain works better. You have better balance, more energy, you're gonna feel better, and you're not gonna have to spend so much time worrying and thinking about your pain.
See what we can do for you with a free arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
It's Your Money is brought to you by Suncoast Credit Union. Get more love, less fees, and free perks with a Suncoast Credit Union membership. Visit suncoast.com to learn more.
El Dorado Furniture's Labor Day sale is here. Take home your favorites with special offers, plus new and improved financing offers, online and at all El Dorado Furniture showrooms.
Hi, I'm Kyle Lee with Lee Auto Group. We will pay the most for your car, truck, or SUV. If you're ready to trade, thinking about selling, or if your lease is about to end, give us a call today or visit lee-cars.com. Don't forget the dash.
No payments until 2027. Call me today at 866-5SHELLY.
Tonight, a food pantry on Fort Myers Beach closing its doors. Community correspondent Anvar Ruziev is on the beach to find out the reason behind the closure, and he's speaking to neighbors who will be impacted.
This Fort Myers Beach food pantry is closing September 10th. I'm your Fort Myers Beach community correspondent Anvar Ruziev, so I know this place has been a lifeline for neighbors since Hurricane Ian. Now organizers say it's time to close the pantry, but not their presence on the island.
For nearly 3 years, FMB Strong has helped hundreds of neighbors with food, housing, and connections to services like SNAP and disability. Since Hurricane Ian, the group has called it Survivors Helping Survivors.
We've helped people with housing, we've helped people with drugs and alcohol, we've helped people get their Social Security, disability, food stamps. Just giving a place for people to come to talk to somebody. So we always have called ourselves Survivors Helping Survivors.
But funding has run out. Grants that paid staff ended last year, leaving just one employee to keep the pantry going.
We've been struggling for a year to just keep the lights on, keep the doors open, and we just financially, there's nothing we can do anymore. Unfortunately, I had to make that decision.
The demand remains high. Even now, the pantry serves between 300 and 600 people on the days it's open.
We serve anywhere from 120 to 160 people on the days that we're open, which can be anywhere, depending how many people they have in their family, that can be anywhere from 300 to 600 people, depending on who comes through the door.
As the doors close September 10th, FMB Strong is directing neighbors to other pantries in Lee County while promising to stay active on the beach.
We're still going to be here for our community. If there is a storm, we will open our operations and whatever we need to do to help our community, so we're not going anywhere.
Now, the organization will remain a designated Red Cross relief center for future hurricanes. Reporting from Fort Myers Beach, Anvar Ruziev, Fox 4.
Thanks for joining us here across the Fox 4 Weather Center. We are tracking this cold front right now hanging out close to the I-4 corridor. So we're close enough that especially our northernmost communities are dealing with the clouds, some rain showers today because of it. And for the most part, those showers have generally dried up, but we do have one little lone shower here hanging out here over DeSoto County. So let's zoom in to Arcadia. Right along 17, heading up through State Route 70 as well as 72, we are seeing some light rain. For the most part, as expected today, those rain showers were generally along and north of the Caloosahatchee River. Meanwhile, south of the Caloosahatchee, we had hot temperatures, not much in the way of cloud cover, a lot more sunshine overall, really helping to warm things up. That's why we saw a huge temperature range for the most part. Now, as for those monthly and annual rainfall totals, so going back year to date, so back to January 1st here and then back to August 1st here, you can see that we are in surplus for the month for Punta Gorda and Naples, but we are still down in Punta Gorda going back to January 1st by over 7 inches. For Naples, we're down by almost 1.5 inches, but overall good recuperation considering where we were. For Fort Myers, we're still down by about a foot. Going back to January 1st, month to date is basically status quo, exactly where we should be. So as for the drought monitor, typically this late into rainy season, we don't still have drought, but we do still have moderate drought across DeSoto County as well as parts of eastern Collier, still dealing with abnormally dry conditions. We'll talk more about when and where we'll deal with tomorrow's wet weather next.
Let's shift to some news you need to know from around the world.
An Israeli airstrike on a Gaza hospital on Monday killed at least 20 people, including 5 journalists. Among the dead was Miriam Daga, a 33-year-old photojournalist who worked for the Associated Press. She was a mother to a 13-year-old son and documented the war in Gaza through her camera. The Israeli military said it was targeting what it believed to be a Hamas surveillance camera and militants. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the attack a tragic mishap. Daga's death leaves a vacuum in coverage from Gaza, where Palestinian journalists are trapped and cannot leave.
All the journalists, right, photojournalists and all of their colleagues, they are eyewitness. They're providing the eyewitness accounts. They are creating the evidence for what is happening.
Daga's last story focused on starvation that's gripping Gaza and its effect on children. She now only lives on through her photos. Here is a brief look at some of her recent photos where she depicts the ongoing struggles for food and other aid. At the same time, family members of hostages held in Gaza are holding nationwide protests across Israel on Tuesday. The protesters are urging the government to reach a ceasefire and abandon plans for the seizure of Gaza City. They're concerned that the offensive could harm their loved ones. Protesters also blocked highways between Tel Aviv and Jerusalem and held demonstrations outside ministers' homes. The chief of staff of the Israeli military reportedly told the government there is a deal on the table. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is conveying his security cabinet to discuss the fighting and hostage release efforts. Netanyahu said that he instructed negotiators to begin talks to release all hostages. The current ceasefire proposal only envisions releasing half of the hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners.
This is about keeping people safe on the road.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy is giving California, Washington State, and New Mexico an ultimatum. Enforce English language requirements for truck drivers or risk losing millions of dollars in federal funding.
We need to make sure that those who are driving big rigs, semis, can understand the road signs, that they've been well trained.
At risk, according to the Department of Transportation, $30 million for California, $10.5 million for Washington, and $7 million for New Mexico. Duffy's giving the states 30 days to comply before he pulls the plug on funds, given out through the Motor Carrier Safety Assistance Program.
We hope there'll be compliance in the next 30 days. If not, we'll take additional steps with that.
Duffy says enforcement is about safety, not politics. He says an investigation found significant failures in the way all three states enforce rules that took effect in June after one of President Trump's executive orders. But this ultimatum comes just weeks after 3 people were killed in a crash on a Florida highway involving a foreign truck driver making an illegal U-turn. The Department of Homeland Security alleges the California licensed driver was in the U.S. illegally and had failed a recent English proficiency test. In response to that crash, the Trump administration has also paused work visas for foreign truck drivers. In New York, Nate Foy, Fox News.
New information about alligator Alcatraz in Collier County as the Florida Department of Emergency Management estimates that it will cost between $15 to $20 million to tear down the fencing and infrastructure. Those numbers come from a state paperwork filed asking a federal judge on a stay in last week's ruling that the facility be torn down within 60 days and no new detainees brought to Collier County. The state argued in its defense that the federal environmental law the judge ruled on didn't apply to state governments.
Florida's governor is doubling down on his push to remove pride murals and other roadway art all across the state. The fight has sparked outrage from critics who say the removals target LGBTQ communities. But state officials say it's all about safety. Florida's Department of Transportation has identified more than 400 locations for removal. That includes pride-themed murals, Black Back the Blue tributes, along with crosswalks that were previously approved by FDOT. The controversy intensified after the state painted over a rainbow crosswalk outside of Orlando's Pulse nightclub.
The Florida legislature passed a law that was very clear that I signed into law. We're not doing the commandeering of the roads to put up messaging.
FDOT says enforcement continues next week. The state is threatening to withhold transportation funding from local governments that fail to comply. Several cities include Key West and Delray Beach that are still resisting the repaint order.
The former head football coach at the University of South Florida was arrested for domestic battery and grand theft on Monday. Jim Levitt coached at USF from 1997 through 2009. The person who reported it to police say Levitt grabbed his ex-girlfriend by the arm and took her purse. Levitt was fired in 2010 after a report that he struck a player in a locker room. Levitt denied that incident ever happened.
There's a new interim president at the University of Florida right as classes begin. Donald Landry was formerly at the Department of Medicine at Columbia University. He replaces Ken Fox, who's not only a former U of F president, but also came back in as an interim role to replace Ben Sass. The next step is for Landry to be confirmed by the State University Board of Governors.
Now let's get to news happening elsewhere in Florida.
It was a homeowner here in Port St. Lucie who emailed me
looking for answers as to why he only got part of a My Safe Florida Home grant that he was promised.
Case closed. Reimbursement received.
Mike Morabito showed me on his computer his My Safe Florida Home account, and he's wondering how a $10,000 grant turned into a payment of just $1,844.
This $8,000 really, with no explanation.
Right. It says here change order, right? And they admit they didn't pay you $8,156.
Mike says the work on his home included a roof, a garage door, a front door, and shutters, over $17,000 in all to harden the home against storms, and over $8,000 short on his grant.
Why? This is what we're trying to find out. Why? I have tried to call them. It's like I was on hold with them 2 weeks ago for an hour and 47 minutes.
And did you ever get through to anybody?
No.
I did contact the people behind the My Safe Florida Home program in Tallahassee about Mike's case, and I'm still waiting for an answer as to why his grant had changed. In Port St. Lucie, Matt Cesny, WPTV News.
Here's something you haven't thought of before.
New research from the University of Florida shows many homeowners do not know about watering restrictions. Tampa Bay 28 reporter Larissa Scott listened to a homeowner and spoke with the researchers behind this study. Now, she explains how you can find your irrigation rules so you don't have to pay.
When you enter a neighborhood, it's common to see people watering their lawn, especially in Florida, especially in the summer. But did you know you could get fined if you water your grass on the wrong day or during the wrong times?
So that one's my favorite.
Jan Allen knows.
These over here.
She's lived in her Largo home for 40 years, and her yard is full of more than 100 species of native plants, attracting bees and butterflies, something she tells me she's proud of as she shows me around her yard, and it's all in the name of water conservation.
I don't have to get out here in August and mow my grass. It, pretty much takes care of itself, and I don't have to water it.
While Jan is aware of watering restrictions, a new study by the University of Florida shows many homeowners aren't. I spoke with two of the researchers, Laura Warner and John Diaz, to learn more.
If they live in Florida, most likely they do have irrigation rules.
Generally speaking, there's a pretty significant lack of awareness of irrigation restrictions.
Not following those restrictions could lead to fines depending on where you live and how many violations you've had. It could cost you anywhere from $100 to $500 in Tampa Bay, and I'm told this is all about trying to get people to save water.
People don't realize that we actually do have issues with water availability, but Florida we're using more water than we can.